Hello there. My name is Vasil, and today I would like to talk about WordPress security in a way that nobody else is talking about. So before we start, I would like to explain why I am even credible to talk about this subject. So for over the past 10 years, I've been developing a plugin called Advanced Access Manager, which is available in the official WordPress.org repository. It's been downloaded more than 6 million times and approaching 200,000 active installations across the world. And arguably, this is one of the most sophisticated plugins to define access controls to your WordPress website. I also had a recently conversation with Corey Miller, who is a original founder of the iThemes security plugin. And in the description for this video, there is a link to this conversation. So you can go and watch it. It's about an hour conversation where we go in depth on this particular subject matter. So without further ado, I will share the screen and just walk you through some of my thinking and start raising awareness about some of the biggest concerns that I see in the space of security when it comes to WordPress. This particular video is not designed to sell anything to you, but rather to raise awareness. So please watch it. I think next 20 minutes will extremely benefit you if you are serious about your website and are serious about security. Alright, so if you are interested in the security topic, you probably have heard of OWASP Top 10 list. If not, it is a non-profit organization that analyzes hundreds of thousands of security incidents, and every 4 years they distill top 10 most common reasons that caused security incidents. And the new list is coming next year, but if you look at the current list, the broken access control is actually issue number 1. And from what they say, 94% of applications were tested for some form of broken access control. So as you can see, this is a very big problem, and WordPress CMS is not an exception. When you hear about WordPress security, you typically hear things like security misconfigurations, which means your server probably was incorrectly configured, some information was exposed to the hackers that led to a security incident. You probably hear about things like vulnerable and outdated components. In WordPress context, these are plugins, themes, or WordPress core, and how dangerous it is to have outdated plugins or themes on your site with security vulnerabilities. You also hear things like identification and authentication failures. These are weak passwords, lack of two-factor authentication, brute force attacks, and you probably hear things like security login and monitoring failures, which means lack of visibility what your users are doing on a website. The common solution for this is to install some plugins that do user activity monitoring and logging. So these are the most common conversations around WordPress security, but for some mysterious reason, broken access controls are rarely or pretty much never discussed. So in this video, I'm trying to start raising awareness on this particular subject matter and show you what tools are available to identify the problems on your site and what you can do to improve your security posture. Alright, so right here I have just a test site. I spun up it just an hour ago, and it's a very basic site. I installed the WooCommerce, Yoast for SEO, and bbPress for forum management. I imagine that would be the common plugins choice for the websites that have a community and with intent to monetize by selling certain products or services. And basic site, I did not configure anything. I just installed the plugin, made few minor modifications just for demo purposes, and I want to show you how quickly your website security degrades as more plugins you install on the site and as more custom development you do on your site. All right, so right here I have Advanced Access Manager plugin installed, and recently we introduced this new feature called Security Scan. It's a very simple feature, but it's extremely powerful because it immediately shows you some of the concerns that that we identify, and you know, this is a food for thought for you as a website owner to make further and smarter decisions about your access strategy. All right, let's just run this scan. It goes and performs a sequence of checks and identify the potential problems. So how did we distill these steps? There's slightly over a dozen steps at the time of recording this video, but essentially these steps were distilled from all the patterns that we identified through supporting hundreds and hundreds of different WordPress sites, and we started noticing the same problems over and over again. Some of them eventually led to security incidents, some of them led to brand reputation damage, and many more nasty things. I'm not going to go in each steps in depth. You can educate yourself by just following the learn more, because every step is very well documented. By clicking learn more, you go to amportal.com, and here we disclose why this check is important and why you should pay attention to this particular area. So yeah, again, you can educate yourself on each particular check. I will just go over the checks that show some level of notifications. It can be a notice, warning, or error. So this step right here, ensure registered role transparency. So WordPress roles have to be transparent to the administrator, because administrator in the end of the day should know what roles are there and what which users have which roles. But it appears that bbPress introduces several WordPress roles that are really not visible to the administrator. What do I mean under not visible? If you go to users and you either edit existing user or add new user, there is this drop down role. And as you can see, the bbPress roles are not visible here. For the average administrator, may not occur that there are certain users on a site that they have these hidden roles, which means potentially these users have elevated privileges that a website administrator may not be aware of. Again, this is not a, it doesn't indicate that it's actually a problem, but it is important for a website administrator to be aware of such roles and do additional verification that users on their site do not have access to features that they're not intended to have. So me as a website owner, now I'd have to go do additional work to ensure that users that have these hidden roles do not have privileges that, for example, maybe privileges to edit certain content, or maybe modify certain users. Nothing against bbPress as a plugin. I'm sure they buttoned up all the security concerns, but there are out there plugins and custom development that introduce hidden roles that are not visible to administrators. So this particular step just shed light on such roles, and so administrator can be aware of them and act accordingly. So let's go to the next step. identify high privilege users and elevated access. So this particular step indicated that there is a Emily Brown who has elevated high privilege capabilities. So what do I mean under high privilege capabilities? Each of these capabilities, if granted to a user, may lead to substantial damage to your site. For example, edit themes capability grants the ability for a user to change theme files, quite literally, which means they can inject malware, they can inject a code that exfiltrates data, and I don't have to go further to emphasize how dangerous this particular change can be. So why Emily Brown? If you go to users, all users, as you can see, there are two administrators on the site, and one of them is Emily Brown. So I see it over and over and over again. Websites with too many administrators. Ideally, there should be only one administrator, disregarding the size of the website. Unfortunately, I see more often websites with dozens or even hundreds of administrators. Generally, you trust your employees, you trust your users, but it doesn't mean that any of those accounts will not be compromised. So if you have one administrator on your site, hackers have only one person to target. If you have 50 administrators on your site, it's a 50 accounts that can be targeted. So the probability that your website will be compromised now increases 50x. And if you need to have a high privilege users on your site, we always advise to create a custom role and grant the capabilities that give access to features, high privilege features, but they only have one administrator. It's a root user, root administrator who has access to everything, while everybody else is limited. That is why Emily Brown was identified as a potential issue, but it doesn't mean that it's the case. In the end of the day, you are the website owner, you make the final decision. The intent of the security scan is only to raise awareness. Now, let's go to the next step, identify high privilege content moderator roles. And this particular problem is on the rise. We see more and more websites being compromised because website administrators are not aware of the danger that comes with high privilege content moderation capabilities like edit pages, edit published pages. So this particular capability allows users to go and change anything on the live page, which means they can add or modify existing copy that can pose serious brand reputation damage or even compliance issues. Ideally, this capability should be granted only to the editor role, and no other role should have access to this capability. There are two other roles, actually three: SEO manager, SEO editor, and shop manager, that have additional three high privilege content moderation capabilities, like unfiltered HTML or delete published pages. Delete published pages is extremely dangerous because user can go and delete any live page. We recently had a customer of ours who contacted and said that the website that has 1.5 million users, the homepage was deleted. Upon quick check, we identified that this particular website had 9 different roles with ability to delete published pages. So it's potentially hundreds of users with ability to just click delete home. Most likely it was just unintentional human error. Unfiltered HTML is extremely dangerous capability because it allows a user to go and inject JavaScript code in any public content, which means it opens the door for cross-site scripting, uh, data exfiltration, and I don't have to say more to express how dangerous these particular concerns are. So I see that these two roles were added by Yoast plugin, and this one by by WooCommerce. Um, these two plugins are fantastic. I think they contribute to WordPress community extensively. I'm not in a position to criticize any of these plugins. I think they are fantastic. I would only question the decision behind granting these capabilities to these roles. But again, it's not my role to criticize, but it's your responsibility to act upon this information and make decisions if you have similar setup on your website. All right, let's go to the next step. Identify elevated number of high privilege users. This step particularly show a number of administrators on the site, which ideally should be one. Any greater than one will raise a critical concern, as well as it showed the warning there are 36 users with a high privilege content moderation access. Now, I see it often, especially supporting large media organizations and enterprises. They have tons of editors, and I can say confidently that you can justify 36 editors on your site if you have over 1 million active pieces of content. Any less, the number of editors should be dramatically decreased, because again, this is just increases the attack vector and potentially can compromise your website if one of the editor accounts is hacked and the malicious code is injected into the public page or post. All right, the next step is flag elevated privileges for core roles. This is a very common problem in the WordPress space, as more and more plugins choose to deviate WordPress core roles from its original design. And for an average website administrator, it's not apparent that existing users start getting access to additional functionality unintentionally. In this particular case, editor role received additional capabilities, which indicates that now editor role has access to features that they may not need, and feature that probably not intended for editors to have access to. And yeah, more plugins you install, more custom work you do. Typically, WordPress core roles are target for deviation, and that is not ideal. So you accordingly have to react to this type of changes and verify that that your existing users do not receive access to features they should not have access to. Last three steps are designed to check configurations on your WordPress site. For example, this one is verifying that your RESTful discovery endpoint is available to unauthenticated users, which can be used by automated scanning tools to gather additional information about your website, like what plugins are installed, what RESTful API endpoints are available for further penetration. Ideally, this particular endpoint should be disabled. You can learn about this more by just following this link, learn more. More and more security experts are raising concerns about XML RPC endpoint being available. This is a legacy endpoint and should not be enabled on majority of modern WordPress websites. I've seen several WordPress sites that still use XML RPC, but these are sites for organizations that used WordPress for decades, and they just have a lot of integration with other tools that they simply have no capacity to rewrite. but 9 out of the 10 times this particular endpoint should be disabled, and you can easily do that. Last but not least, editable file system. Most modern hosting solutions have a file system read-only, but there's still a lot that do not disable editing of the files, which means your users can go and modify plugins and themes from the admin dashboard. That's open a door for malware injections and from even critical PHP errors if mistakes is made during the file editing. So yeah, this just show you how this particular scanning tool works, and some of my thoughts on why certain raised concerns are critical for you to be aware of. If you have any questions, concerns, feedback, feel free to submit a contact form on aamportal.com, or you can do it directly from the plugin just by going to Access, Welcome, and down here there's a Contact Us form. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting. Bye bye.